Is the Omaha real estate market going to crash in 2024? Rates have come down in the past few weeks. Should a buyer wait to see if rates come down further, or does it make sense to buy a home now? Those are the two questions we're going to answer in today's video, and we're going to get started right now. Hi, my name is David Matney with Nebraska Realty. I'm a local realtor here in Omaha, Nebraska. Now let's jump into today's topic. Question: is the Omaha real estate market going to crash in 2024? We actually had a crash when you look at the number of transactions. For example, look at the number of homes sold back in 2021. Rates were at record lows and buyers were scrambling to take advantage of those rates. Look at how sales decreased in 2022 by 10%, and then in 2023, they were off by 17%. Let's compare today's numbers to the numbers of the Great Recession. This goes back 20 years. In this graph, you'll see that each data point is 12 months of activity. Look at the years when we had record low interest rates. In 2021 and in 2022, we had over 15,000 sales. In 2023, it is below 12,000 homes sold. However, look back at the years of the Great Financial Crisis. We had years where we sold less than 10,000 homes. Keep in mind, since then, we've had even more population in the area. Population growth is going to drive more sales. Even though fewer homes are selling, homes are still being sold. Why? Because when somebody gets married, gets divorced, passes away, or has a baby, or has a job transfer, it creates a real estate need. Let's look at home prices over a 20-year period. Now we're going to look at prices in the Omaha region where each data point is 12 months of activity. This will iron out some of the seasonality. You're going to see that in the years prior to the Great Financial Crisis, we had homes in the $142,000 range. Then in the years after the Great Financial Crisis, it dipped a little bit, but it didn't crash. There was a little bit of a hit, but not much. Now, prices have since then taken off. Now, could prices flatten out? Now, there could be an argument for that. However, coming down, it's hard to say. Now, when interest rates went up, it made homes less affordable. When rates went down to 3%, everybody knew that party was going to end. So there was a bum rush to buy a home and take advantage of those low rates. What does a low interest rate really mean? Let's take a look at a payment at a 3% interest rate versus a 6.5% interest rate. Let's do a purchase price of $300,000. We're coming in with 20% down payment of $60,000. The amount financed is $240,000. Now, at a 3% interest rate, your monthly payment, and this is just principal and interest, is $1,012. At a 6.5% interest rate, it's $1,517. When interest rates were low, more buyers could afford to purchase a home. When rates were higher, more buyers were pushed to the sideline. Now, buyers were pushed to the sideline because of interest rates, not because they lost a job. The unemployment rate in the Omaha area is still low at 2.6% versus 2.5% in 2022. They can buy, but they just can't buy at the current rate. Now, the buyers are still out there. When rates come down, what do you think these buyers are going to do? Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but sales will take back off again as rates come down. The question is, how far will rates drop? That's going to be up to the Fed, but that's a good question, and really nobody knows. It will be an election year, and so there's going to be political pressure to make things look good. What about inventory? Now, the real estate market is like any other market. It works off supply and demand. Look at the inventory over the past 20 years. Look at the number of homes on the market back during the Great Financial Crisis. For many years, we had over 5,000 homes on the active market. Compare that to the years of the pandemic. We only had just over 1,000 homes available on the market. Now, keep in mind, the Omaha Metro has a population of close to 1 million people. Inventory has since then gone up a little bit, but we're not back to the levels of the pre-pandemic years. Omaha is on the grow. More people are being drawn to the Midwest, especially if you compare Omaha to some of the cities where crime is through the roof and where there's tent cities everywhere. Now, Omaha's not that way yet. However, there are some parts of the metro where you're starting to see more homeless and more people whacked out on drugs, and I really feel sorry for those folks. Earlier this year, I helped a family relocate from Portland, Oregon, and they had a beautiful home back in Portland that was in the neighborhood of about $800,000, and it was a beautiful home. And my client said that they had someone steal their spare tire off of their car. Now, is Omaha perfect? No, we have crime just like anybody else, but when you compare the Omaha crime to some of these other cities, it's not even close. Now, if you're moving to Omaha, if you have any questions or if you need help, shoot me an email, give me a call, or shoot me a text. There's no obligation. If you don't have an agent and you need help, my contact information is in the description below. What I don't want you to do is make a decision based on what you see on YouTube. There's a cottage industry right now where you have content creators who peddle panic for clicks. They talk about home prices crashing and how now is not the time to buy a home. In my opinion, they're selling fear. I understand that I'm a real estate agent and I'm always going to be bullish on home ownership. There's going to be some folks that shouldn't buy a home. Some folks aren't ready yet. Maybe they have a little work to do on their credit. Maybe they have to save up some more funds. Home ownership is not for everybody. The perfect home doesn't exist, and the exact perfect time to buy a home doesn't exist either. Buying a home is not just a financial decision. For example, every year the National Association of Realtors publishes a survey where they survey the people who purchased a home the previous year. And the number one reason people buy a home is simply the desire to own a home of their own. And there's another reason why homes are not coming down in price. Look at the number of homes built in the past decade. This chart is from the National Association of Home Builders. After the Great Recession, we built fewer homes. In the Omaha market, we've had several builders at that time go out of business. Unfortunately, several even took their own life. Builders are much more cautious in today's market. Here's another thing to consider. Look at the really smart money. D.R. Horton, who is a national builder, just came into the Omaha market a few years back. If they did not see growth in our market, they wouldn't have come here. Warren Buffett just purchased 5.7 million shares of D.R. Horton. Now, he's a pretty smart guy, and there's only one reason he's going to make a purchase, and that is if he sees opportunity. Now, D.R. Horton is operating in 45 of the top 50 markets. They build homes on volume, and they're building like gangbusters in our market. So obviously, they see potential in our market. Now, ask yourself, is Warren Buffett wrong, and is D.R. Horton wrong? And is some agent who has a real estate crash channel right? Last year, the average age for the first-time home buyer was 35 years old. The year before, it was 36. Unfortunately, it is much harder today for a young person to buy a home versus a young person 10 years ago. Affordability is a real problem. It's still attainable, but it's gotten so much harder. Just because someone can't afford a home doesn't mean home prices have to crash. The other issue is household formation. Look at this graph. This graph shows the population distribution by age. The largest segment of the population in Omaha are those aged 25 to 29. And that's not peak buying age yet. If the average home buyer is 35 years old, we have several years of more buyers entering the Omaha market. Again, supply and demand. Low inventory or supply, higher demand, prices go up. We have sellers out there who would like to sell and maybe buy a larger home, but they don't want to give up that 3% interest rate. Now, if we see rates go down to 5% in that range, you're going to see more of those sellers willing to put their home on the market. And another reason why prices are not coming down is all of the easy ground in Douglas County that was easy to develop, that's already been developed. It costs more to develop the ground. That price gets passed along to the consumer. At some point, local governments may have to loosen up some of their regulations that are built into the cost to develop ground in order to lower the cost to build. Okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to talk about politics real quick, okay, because all of this is tied together. Right now, there's an idea floating around in the current administration for a $15,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. Now, that sounds nice, especially if you want votes during an election. But if you already have low inventory and you create more buyers with a tax credit, you're just going to end up driving prices higher. Again, the other thing to consider is the current political environment. We have a divided government. What are the chances of that passing the House and the Senate? I don't think you have to be Milton Friedman to figure out that this is a bad idea. It sounds like a good idea during an election year. Long story short, do I think the market's going to crash? No. In fact, if rates go down, and if they go down a lot, then we're going to be back to the chaos that we had a few years ago. Now, the media is always a couple of months behind. Rates have dipped. A few months ago, they were at 8%. Now they're back to 6.5%. If rates go down to that 5% range, I think you're going to see some sellers, especially with those 3% interest rate, decide to move to a larger home. Now, keep this in mind. All this is just speculation on my part. I think if you buy a home you can afford, plan to live in it for a while, if you have a stable job, you're going to be just fine. And here's the other thing too. Right now it's Christmas time, so nobody's paying attention to the housing market. In my opinion, it would be a good time to buy because builders have some incentives in order to move current inventory. Now, if rates go down, those incentives may disappear. I think builders are cutting into their margins. They're not lowering prices because the cost to build has gone down. If you buy now, and let's say rates do come down, you could possibly refinance. However, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to refinance. You have to be sure you're comfortable with your payment whenever you buy. Thing is, nobody knows for sure. You have to use your best judgment. I don't have a crystal ball. If you need help or if you're thinking about buying, I can put you in touch with a great local lender. And this happens all the time. When somebody reaches out, they see a home online, they want to make an offer, and then they lose out because it takes too long to get pre-approved. Have the discussion now, so that way, if the right home comes along, then you can take advantage of the market. And here's another difference between now and 2008. During the great financial crisis, if you fogged a mirror, you could buy a home. Not so in today's world. Only the best of the best are qualified to buy. I know I'm a real estate agent. I make money when people buy and sell and they use my services. If you don't want to buy now, and if you don't feel comfortable buying right now, then don't. I will say this, looking back, I should have bought more real estate. My very first rental was $10,000. Then I bought a couple more when they were $30,000 and $40,000. And then I got up to $60,000. But at the time, I had to make sure I could make my monthly payment if no rent was coming in. Now, looking back, knowing what I know now, I probably was a little bit too cautious, but I had a wife and little kids, and I didn't want to get too far in over my head. This is just something to think about. A few weeks back, I was in a mastermind group and we were talking about prices in the Omaha market, and one of the agents was from Denver, and he mentioned that Omaha feels like Denver 10 years ago. He goes, back then, a $300,000 home was $500,000 today. So keep that in mind. Today's high prices are tomorrow's great deals. Until somebody invents a flex capacitor to time travel, the best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago. The next best time is today. And I want to just say this too, and that is coming up on Christmas time, and I hope you enjoy the holiday. I really appreciate everybody who has supported my channel and takes time to comment. It really helps out my videos. You have a lot of different options when it comes to YouTube out there, so I really appreciate it when you take your valuable time to watch my videos. And it doesn't happen very often, but occasionally I'll have viewers come up to me and say hello. So if you ever see me out and about in Omaha, feel free to say hi. So I really enjoy that. And then next week, my editor takes the week off, so there'll be no videos next week. Hopefully I'll get this one done before then. And again, feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the description below. And if you want to watch the next video on 25 essential things you need to know before moving to Omaha, be sure to check out this next video, and you make it a great day.